Same time, it was the 60s. I was a musician. I went through the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and everything from atheism to agnosticism to finally getting turned on to Edgar Casey and Mad Blavatsky and a lot of psychics. And I started reading that material in the late 60s. Moved to Austin in the 70s, talked to several psychics and astrologers, and they said, "You got a lot of psychic ability." And I started giving readings. There was no internet then, so it was just the friends and the people who knew me through people. And as I traveled on the road a lot, I was a musician again, traveled on the road, started giving readings with usually a regular deck of playing cards. In 1977, sort of out of clear blue, I quit a band. I wanted to kind of sort some things out, my relationship, my living space, what I wanted to do musically. Needed a break from the road. And this was January 31st, 1977. So I came back to stay at my little duplex. I just moved in there a couple weeks earlier. Had two roommates, real small, barely knew them. Well, I knew one fairly well. Uh, I called him Brendan in the book. The other guy, I called him Mark. Um, so within 24 hours, the world suddenly changed. I started picking up people's thoughts and feelings. And my roommate would walk in with a newspaper the next morning. I'd read the headlines through his eyes. My roommates left. I walked down to the store and I could feel everything everybody was thinking about. And this had just kind of seemed to come about out of the clear blue. And it was kind of fascinating at first. That night, we went to a club. And as we walked into the club, I felt a certain premonition at this certain spot outside the door. We went in the club, too much noise in the back with the band. I came out to the front, sat at the bar, thought about taking a break outside, and all of a sudden, I'm standing outside at that spot that I felt earlier. And these people are walking in the door and they walk right through me, and it startled me. And I opened my eyes. Yep, I'm still here in the bar stool, but the door swung open and the people walked in dressed exactly as I saw them just a second ago. And I did this a couple times. It blew my mind. My roommate came out from the back. I showed him. It blew his mind. This phenomena started building up, and it started. There was no neutral. I was either picking things up unexplained and fascinated by them, or I was looking at something, say a stranger 3 blocks away, and I'd think, scratch your head and point up to that building, and they'd do it. And then I'd take a deep breath and go, "Did I know that was going to happen?" And pick it up. That's cool. But if I made that person do that, what if I thought car wreck? And the intensity of the thought process that I was going through, it scared the living hell out of me. At the same time, I never felt so empowered. And this went on and on. I'll give you another circumstance. I wrote a book about it, A Second in Eternity, because there's about 250 pages of circumstances that it went through in this week, about half of it, this first week in 1977. We went to a restaurant one time, and my roommate, who's very concerned about me, and I am too, I don't know how to turn this off or what it is or why, so I deal with it. And he asked me, "What's going on? Can you explain how you're feeling now? I know it's been something's been intense with you." And rather than try to explain it, I nodded to two ladies over in the corner of the restaurant, as far as from us as we could be, and asked him, "Do you know either of those ladies?" And he said, "I don't think so. Probably not." And I said, "Well, I'm going to have the brunette write me a letter just to show you." He said, "What?" I said, "I'm going to have her write me a letter." So while we're eating dinner, I keep thinking about that lady, and I'm the guy over here in the blue shirt. You don't know me, but just write me a letter. Very harmless. And 10 minutes later, as they were leaving the restaurant, they walked out, first lady, then the brunette, and she threw a napkin down on my table. And she had written in this napkin in big bold letters, "Why are you doing this to me?" Boy, did that shock me. I realized I wasn't really a harm to other people, but I was shocking them, and I was shocking myself, and I was predicting everything, and I could tell when the phone was going to ring and who was going to call. And this went on and on and on. Said there was a whole bunch of experiences. right is left, left is right, whatever. In my book, A Second Eternity, I kept feeling these monitors. They called themselves the monitors, or I suggested that name or felt it. Either way, that's kind of how I thought of these soul guides, guardian angels, something. And
How
I'd
did
never
you
saw them, but I kept feeling them.
how did you get to meet them or to feel them?
Pardon me?
How did you get to meet them or to feel them?
Because I started really questioning what was going on very intensely. I mean, you can't not question it. 2 days later, life was this way, and now normal life is gone. The only thing I could do is go inside. And as I went inside trying to figure stuff out, I started feeling them. Started feeling like I'm protected, I'm covered, it's okay. It's weird, Gary, but you're okay. We're watching you. That's the best way I can describe it. I didn't feel them. I mean, I did feel them. I didn't see them, but it felt like they were kind of checking on me in shifts, because I wasn't sleeping. Every night I'd lay awake wide open, picking up things about people, picking up things about the world, seeing flashes of the future. I remember feeling this sort of need to create these triangles between myself, the world, and higher consciousness, and thinking in terms of triangles, thinking in terms of mind power, spirituality, and that totally took me over. It totally took over. And so, as that started taking over because of my curiosity, what's going on? I started feeling the monitors, and after about after about 7 days of this, I literally couldn't take it anymore. It was too much. I didn't want to see everything, feel everything all the time. I became pretty terrified. Left my apartment. I was marching somewhere, walking, actually pacing pretty fast. I was rather frantic. Middle of February, February 7th, as a matter of fact, 77. Um, and the intensity kept building up, building up, building up. And I finally got up to Guadalupe Street across from UT here in Austin, Texas. And it built up to the point I was just scared to death. I was crying, I was praying, I was pacing down the street, terrified, and looked around. There's people just staring at me. They didn't know what to do. And I was about to warn them, hey, spread out, folks. I might blow up. That's kind of the way I felt. But at the same time, I still felt this sense of protection. And all of a sudden, in the height of this intense, intense fear that I couldn't take anymore, instantaneously it dissipated. It was gone instantaneously. I felt warm. It's the middle of February. I look up and I see this huge light, like a spotlight, about 5, 6 feet over my head. And I look around and none of these people see it. And I don't care. I look up and then I realize it's a crystal table about this thick. And around the table are these 7 kind of off-white robed monitors, guardian angels. I couldn't see their faces. They were kind of like grayish, so to speak, uh, as if to say their faces didn't matter, their looks didn't matter, their sex didn't matter. It was only their presence. And they said, "Do you trust us?" in one voice, like James Earl Jones. And I went, "Wow, I don't understand what's happening. You're the monitors." Yes, yes. Do you trust us? And I had this short conversation that went nowhere because they kept saying, "Do you trust us?" And I finally said, "Yes, absolutely, anything." And within a second or two, I was hit head on by a speeding car. Bam. Didn't even feel it. Then I'm outside my body, watching my body get tumbled over by the car. And then I'm outside and I'm expanding out in all directions. The picture on this book shows, linearity going one direction. I was actually expanding in all directions. And almost instantaneously, I saw the whole Earth from 360 degrees, north, south pole. I remember that's the first actual confirmation of being 3D, of going out in all directions. And soon thereafter, I didn't have any awareness of myself. That disappeared pretty quick. It was pure sensation. And I expanded further and further toward the end of the galaxy, to the end of the universe. I went through this level of consciousness I call the colors, that when we come in, because that's how we go out at death, and that's how we come in.
Mhm.
It ain't linear. It's expanding in all directions simultaneously, rather instantaneously too. And as I went past the edge of the universe, I felt like I saw this level of consciousness called the colors. At least that's the name that I felt was appropriate. And that is a level of consciousness that allows us, when we come in, our souls come in. We go through that. And so when we become incarnated, we've already been through the colors. We have the ability to use our senses, minds, touch, feel, so forth, to understand our own existence. And that's sort of like the source code we get on the way we come here. Now we may not push that button ever in life, or certainly not as a child, but we do have the ability to tap in and learn about our infinite consciousness. But the choice is always ours. Life is always tapping us on the shoulder. Life is always trying to show us what we need to learn. In fact, I think a lot of the surprises and curveballs in life, there's no actions, there's no mistakes, there's no coincidences. There are mistakes, there's no coincidences. Everything happens by cause and effect, everything, including us being here. And so when we go through life, we experience things that shock us, surprise us, we weren't expecting. That's life's only way of showing us what we need to learn next. But we get to choose whether to open that door, learn, grow, evolve, or not pay attention, go out and have a beer and blow it off. Free will by choice is the most powerful gift humans have, because regardless of our circumstances, you know, we get to choose how to interpret them. And that came into play when I came back into my body, because I had
Did
no
you
idea
choose
who I
that?
was. Pardon me?
Did you choose that? Was
I
it a
think
choice?
everything's by choice somehow. I think to some degree it's choice. It may not. It may be so deeply embedded in so many other things in different lifetimes, or it may be a choice you made right here, right now. Uh, but I don't believe in accidents or coincidences. I believe everything happens by cause and effect, and omission or commission. You cannot choose, and guess what? The flood will get you because the water's rising. Or you can choose to pay attention, listen to the weather, and go higher ground. We always have choice. We don't always know what to do, and we don't always get exactly what we want. Life is a gamble and a chance, but if you never went through some sort of challenge or chance or confusion or chaos or fear, you'd never learn how to deal with those things. And so I came back into my body from this infinite mind, infinite consciousness that blew me away. I went through a tunnel of light, came out the other side into the sky blue eternity, no awareness of myself, but a complete awareness of infinite love, infinite possibilities, infinite creation. Uh, Nothing could limit this infinite mind. It was completely unbiased. Of course, it's got no bias, it's complete creativity. And everything that can happen will, because it's really not expending any energy. It's only infinite mind seeing itself. That's what everything is. Every molecule, atom, thought. And I was part of this until for some reason I felt like, oops, now I'm observing it. And I was pulled back through that tunnel of light, collapsing back into time and space with no idea who I was, but not particularly wanting to leave where I just had been. But I use the term spiritual gravity in my book. It felt like I was being pulled back. I didn't know where, didn't know why. I was a little apprehensive. But the closer I got to our galaxy and then this solar system and this planet, the more I started feeling some sort of affiliation with it. I still didn't know what. As I came closer and closer to my body, I saw three series of pictures. I briefly described them in the book. The first was all the chaos we're going through now. I saw COVID-19, 9/11, all these banking problems. I mean, you can turn on the TV any day and see breaking news 24 hours. So, but I saw all this way back in 77. And I couldn't imagine in 77 of average guy being able to buy an AK-47 and go shoot up innocent people. But I saw those pictures. I didn't put it in the book I didn't think it was real. Well,
Yeah.
welcome to real life. Lots of challenges. We can't change all that. What we can change is the way we look at things. And I learned through my near death experience when I came back and went through these three series of pictures, the first being the chaos, the second being the other side of this chaos, the true Aquarian age, the beauty of the world, peace, harmony. And that ain't 5 days away. It could be, decades away. It could be a century away. It's the true Aquarian age. And we're into the Pisces age, and we're seeing everything that's broken. That's why we're going through this world transformation, to see everything that needs to be fixed so we can fix it. Because if you don't fix it, it's still going to stay broken. Da-da! So I suggest to everybody, be as calm and peaceful as you can in these times. Yeah, they're challenging, they're difficult, but power's on the inside. Power's on the inside, real power. So I came back into my body seeing these three series of pictures, the chaos, the other side that's beautiful. And then I saw these pictures of a musician and a psychic, and it turned out to be me. And then I saw my body and jumped into my body like, wow, I'm home. Well, I felt no pain, no shock, no nothing. I just came back from heaven. It was eerie, but I wasn't hurt at all. I jumped to my feet. Well, this red haired guy is hanging over me. He's the driver. He's terrified. Man, I tried to stop it. Get away. I'm okay. I jumped up to my feet. Big circle of people, all concerned because all they know is I just was in head on collisions. Got up like I didn't feel it because I didn't.
Yeah.
And he's trying to control, stay down. You're in shock. No, I'm not. So I decided, screw this. I'm not hurt. I'm just going to walk home. This is too confusing. Everybody said, no, wait, cops are coming, ambulance. Sure, I'll just explain it to them. I heard the sirens within about, no time, minutes. Cops, ambulance, police all showed up, and they're all looking around for a body in the middle of the street. Of course, I'm not in the middle of the street bleeding. I'm talking to all these people, asking if they saw these monitors. That didn't seem good. Cops, finally, I said, I'm the guy you're looking for. And they all came over and asked me, one question after the next. And I tried to explain to them what happened and why I wasn't hurt. And that didn't float. No, they
Yeah.
wouldn't let me go home. They took me to the hospital, even though I didn't feel like, because I had to x-ray me and check me out. Got the hospital, x-rayed me, checked me out, not hurt. And then in the emergency room, this man came up to me, and I'd seen a premonition of him. I knew his name, all about him. He's a psychiatrist. Blew his mind. I knew all about him. And he said, how do you know this? Were you a patient of mine? I said, no, I can tap into anything right now. And I told him a little about my experience. I just want to go home. And he said, yeah, I understand. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. I said, you are now. I just want to go home. He said, you can't. We got it. It's too weird. We got to get you a psychiatric evaluation. So they put me in jail. I went from heaven to the hospital, past that to jail because they
But
had to get
why
a
would
order,
you go to jail?
because they had to get a legal order of protective custody
Okay.
from a judge or someone. They just can't throw you in the psychiatric ward without a order of protective custody. Basically, it took a couple days. My brother came in and signed it, and meanwhile I was in jail and I was still amped up and so psychic. I was talking to all the other people in the other cells about their cases. And one of the jailers came in and said, you are not a lawyer. You have no reason to talk to these people. And if you keep doing that, we'll put you in solitary confinement. All right, I'll shut up because I didn't really want to talk to him anyway. I started a can of worms by mentioning one thing to one guy, and then they're, how'd you know my name? Uh-oh, I shouldn't open that can of worms. So for about 10 or 15 minutes, I was talking to all the people in jail and giving them profound legal advice. And this was just pouring in. I could tap into anything. That was the issue, the problem. That's why I'm here. That's what brought me to this point. That's why I'm here now. So they finally, it took me to a psychiatric hospital, and I'm a real happy dude. I didn't care. I was, entertaining people, playing the guitar, the piano. After a week, They take you to before a whole board of psychiatrists, and they decide if you're okay to let you go free or if they need to get another 10-day mandatory commitment. Well, I told my story. I said, I ain't changing my story. This is what happened. And you folks in the mental health industry should be looking into this. There's great connections between psychic phenomena and psychosis. I mean, there's a thin line there, you know. Uh, I'm not changing my story. That's what happened. If you want to give me 10 more days, we'll do this forever. But I'm not lying and say this didn't happen. Okay. And they let me out. About a month and a half later, I had a slight relapse. Um, Went to the state hospital because I was still dealing with this premonitions about everything. It took months for that to kind of taper down. What I did not understand is why I had this experience. That was the most mind boggling thing. I was so grateful, so profound. Even though I was just beginning to understand it, I never heard the term near death experience, never knew anything about it, never knew anybody experienced anything like this. So I had no frame of reference other than it happened to me. And it was the most profound and true thing ever in my life. I can't underscore that enough. So, anyway, months later, after me asking over and over and over to my guides, why'd y'all choose me? What did I possibly do? They finally appeared to me in, I think, October or something of 77. I didn't see them. I felt them. They were somewhere around my front yard. I was playing guitar on my porch, and they shot this light into my head. I felt, and they started repeating these words in that same one unified James Earl Jones low, calming voice. At the same time, I saw these like screen credits rolling off in the distance, reading exactly what they're saying. And it took about a second. It was just bam, bam, the reading, the voice. And what they said was, the reason you had this is you always wanted to know. You asked, you started way back in Catholic school wanting to connect with God. You studied psychic ability and religion, curious. You wanted to know. You could handle the truth. You're ready. We took you. We insured you. We brought you back. And when we brought you back, it would be so shocking that, yes, you were going to have several grounding agents. Because I even started thinking of them in terms of grounding agents. Hospital, family, court. Jesus, man. You got a joyride to heaven, and here I am getting arrested and incarcerated over it. It was beautiful and humorous. And I
I
was
can
eternally
imagine.
grateful. I was so
Absolutely.
grateful. Pardon me?
You are grateful.
Extremely grateful. From the moment I came back, actually, from the moment the intense fear turned into intense protection and warmth, right before I saw the monitors, and from the second I saw the monitors from there on, it was eerie, confusing. It was, uh, but hell, going to heaven and coming back can be kind of eerie.
I would imagine. And I think especially because this happened in 77. So
Mm-hmm.
there's no internet back then. And you come back in, you were in Texas, right? At the
Mm-hmm.
time. So you're in Texas, in the US, you have no connection or barely any connection to the outside world, to which we now have via the internet. So people must have thought this is the craziest story. Something happened to you. Your family, your friends, everybody you would tell, including the people at the hospital and so on,
True.
they must have thought, my goodness, I'm so happy he's back and he's okay after this thing. But the story he's telling is just unbelievable. And I think
Well,
my question is more, how did you deal with that? Because of course people have their own judgment, their own opinions, but then you're subject to the opinions of others because you're being kept in a psychiatric world, because you're being taken to jail without having done anything wrong. So these restrictions are being forced upon you, even though you haven't really done anything but tell the truth.
yeah, but it was light and humorous. It was just part of the, when you live in Rome, you deal by the laws of Italy, I guess, or Rome or whatever. Not the best analogy, but it was the joy, the thrill, the experience, the feeling of infinite love, infinite power, the mind-boggling voyage there back, and being completely protected, man, that was enough to inspire me for my lifetime, and it did, and it has. And I don't need another trip or more confirmation. But what I did learn to do, first of all, is believe in the powers that we all have, you know. And I started, it changed my life. I learned to play piano. I was a musician with a crappy voice, not a good singer. I taught myself piano in 1980, started just basics, you know. 1984, talked my way into a piano bars. Crappy singer, not a good player, but I can talk. You know, I can be an entertainer. It's all about what you can do and what you can change. And I learned so much about the fact that we're all connected to this infinite mind and infinite creativity. But just like my experience, we have to ask. If you really want your higher mind, your subconscious, your guides to work with you, you have to ask because they all know the rule. And the rule is they do not have the right to walk over your free will. My guides even asked me at the height of the most terrifying and electrifying moment in my life, do you trust us? They had to get my permission before they could help me solve the puzzle. It's that intense. So we do have to ask, and I suggest people meditate. You know, turn your worrying mind off for 5 minutes a day. You know, deep breathing, meditating, not thinking, meditating. If you're thinking too much, think of a mantra. Picture grandma. Think of one thing, because that is our port to infinite mind. That's our port to power. It's inside. It's the only place it is. And we're all connected to infinite power, but we have to practice that just like you got to practice driving or golf if you want to develop skill at it, you know. Techniques, decisions, and follow through. That's how you develop skill at anything, certainly including your own spiritual growth and your own spiritual power. And once I got a glimpse of the spiritual and psychic power people have, I practiced it my whole life. I asked my guides to find me gigs and cars, and 12 years ago, I asked them to find me a soulmate, and they did. We're still together. I never asked them to help me sing like Ray Charles because I knew that wasn't going to work. That ain't coming. I asked for things in my range, and I got 95% of what I've ever asked for. Uh, because, like I said, I asked for things in my range. I never asked for a big CD deal because I knew I didn't have the talent and the voice and the writing to, certainly better artists than me. But I learned how to be happy. I learned how to be creative. I learned how to see the light in everything. And that is gold. And I spend my whole life trying to impart that to other people as best I can because I'm the luckiest person on the planet for getting a view of that. And it wasn't an accident. So choose wisely, be curious, ask, then don't be surprised if you start getting more miracles in your life. Why? Because you practice, made a decision, you ask. Well, when you say we, that's 8 billion people. And no two are the same, and no two are in the same situation. Yeah, collectively we're Chinese or Americans or Catholics or whatever. But we're all virtually individuals, and it's no accident or coincidence that we're all on this planet here now at this time going through this. Uh, the the future's not near as written in stone as we might think. It really isn't. However, there are the concepts of inertia. If you got a table and you got a pool ball and it's going to the edge and you push it, it's going to go off the edge unless you stop it. It's inertia. Things, whether it's physics or spiritual or whatever, things have inertia. So we're headed in some crazy directions, one might think, and certainly it looks that way, but it's also, again, we're seeing individually and collectively what our problems are, what our situations are, not to be tortured, but life's showing us what we need to fix so we can get to a more peaceful, better world within ourselves and within society. And it's not a button or a switch, and it's not one thing, it's a little bit of everything. That's why we see so many systems and people and failures systems breaking down. It's not that humans are bad, but there's certainly some assholes, excuse my French. There are. And there's
Certainly.
certainly some jerks. It's
Yeah.
not me to judge, but sorry, I'm a human. I don't like people killing each other. Don't like people harming each other. But just because I don't like it doesn't mean it ain't going to be here. Everybody's going through this intense time to see themselves, really, because that's where it all is. Although, until we come to terms with the fact that it's all about seeing ourselves, we're going to be blaming somebody else because we ain't looking inside. Um, Maybe that's kind of a roundabout answer, but I'm an optimist. And I believe that if we go a little bit this way, a little bit that way, a little bit that way, yeah, there's flexibility. There's going to, the tides change, the weather's unpredictable, but the general trend is toward the enlightenment of humankind. That's why we came here. That's what's happening. We ain't going to change that. We will certainly make it happen faster or slower, just like we do with voting or laws or water pressure. We have a lot in our life that we can regulate, but the, I guess, cycles of growth in human consciousness, that's kind of like nature. Went from amoeba to complex life. Um, there's so many levels of consciousness beyond ours, just like there's billions of different levels of life just on this planet. But whether it's the life on this planet, time, space, the levels of consciousness, this is all one infinite mind seeing itself. And if we allow ourselves to kind of look at it that way, we don't feel so victimized. Okay, this is my page in the script. I got slapped in the face. Oh, I won $1 million in the lottery, whatever. You know, we're going to go through surprises in life. We're going to go through curveballs. We can put our heart into everything, and sometimes we hit home runs and sometimes we don't. But if you look at life from what it can teach you and how much you can learn, then you can learn from the home runs, the strikes, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can learn from anything. And having seen that, I commit myself to it. And I have to admit, I'm pretty fearless. That could change tomorrow, but I ain't going to go look for it. I'm going to stay on the avenue of growing light as much as possible. And I suggest other people do that because that's what life is trying to show the whole planet through these challenges now. I've been a musician since I was a teenager, and the way most musicians learn is you learn from techniques and songs that other people already made hits on, because that works. There's techniques at everything, period, whether it's golf or learning music or raising your consciousness. The techniques of finding peace are within yourself. Meditate. Number one, give yourself 5 minutes a day. Lay down, sit down, breathe deep and slow, so deep, so slow. And when you get to that point of complete relaxation, as our human minds do, chatter, 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 bring your attention back to right here now, breathing, or think of a mantra or a color or a sound or one thing. Teach yourself consciously to turn off your conscious mind, because you can close your eyes and you cut out all the light. Same thing happens with our conscious mind. Our conscious mind, whether we know it or not, can block our subconscious, and does most of the time, so we can deal with normal life. The wall between my conscious and subconscious broke down in 1977, and I'll tell you what, there's a lot in the conscious mind that doesn't come through, and that's good. But that is our port. So if you really want to learn power, happiness, creativity, if you really want to get more bang for your buck, considering your genes, your history, who you are right now, that we can't change, you can change the way you feel about yourself. You can change. You can go from fear to fearless, takes practice. You can go from doubt to certainty, takes practice. You can go from can't do it to watch me hit the home run this time. We can change things. Now, if you lose a leg in a car accident, you're not going to grow another leg back, but you can learn to deal with it. You can learn to use prosthetics. You can teach other people, encourage other people. There's always something we can do. And I say that looking at the sheer terror and torture some people on this planet go through. man, if I could push a button and make it not happen, I can't. Uh, but life is cycles. We've lived a lot of lifetimes. We have no idea how many lifetimes we've lived. But the universe is ultimately fair. And every lifetime you live and I live and everybody lives, and every quirk and every atom and every thought, it's only infinite mind seeing itself. So if we put ourselves into the position of connecting to infinite mind and sort of getting another look at this concept we call separateness, it's an illusion. It's a pretty real one. We deal with it every day. But there really is one infinite mind. And if we tap into that, we start learning our power, and we learn how to deal with the very situations we face, whether it's personal or spiritual or mental or financial. And again, we may not, we got financial problems. We may not come into the big bank, but we can learn to be at peace. And when you learn to be at peace, regardless of the situation, it doesn't make you naive or stupid. It makes you able to see what you can do. You know, I use the analogy of, potholes, going down a road, bunch of potholes. We're not going to get out and fix the road. So what do? I mean, you can complain to the city or whatever, but the best thing to do is slow down and drive around them. There's always some solutions, and there's 8 billion people, and there's 8 billion different keys and methods. Uh, but knowing for a fact, even though I can't prove it, that we're all connected to infinite mind, I encourage people to push that button, because that's the button where power is, and that can help you through pain, grief, fear, doubt. It doesn't mean you won't have challenges. It just means you'll be smarter and wiser and able to deal with them better. We'll always have challenges. We'll always have curveballs. We'll always have disappointments and surprises. But we can also always be growing in intelligence, in acceptance, in love. Uh, and that kind of makes it make sense. Well, in 1980, I was going through some issues, and a friend of mine suggested I contact this psychic named Alice Worrell. And I did, and she did a reading for me using lithomancy. I'd never seen it, but I was very intrigued by it because I was given readings myself, but usually with regular playing cards. I kind of developed my own system because there wasn't an internet, you know. So anyway, when I met her, she did the reading this way, and I liked it. And she had a class a week or two later. It was pouring rain. I was the only person that showed up. We were both thinking about heading back sooner. So she showed me about 10 or 15 minutes how she does it because it's real intuitive. Next day, I got 16 stones and marked them so I could remember which was which and started practicing on my friends. And here's what it boils down to: there's a lot of systems. Um, I liked it because I'd never seen it before. Uh, and because it was real intuitive. You could just look and feel. You don't have to read, you don't have to remember what 58 tarot cards are or whatever. Uh, I know a little bit about astrology, enough to make sense of the stones. Excuse me, stones here. There's 16 stones. 10 of them are planet stones: Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. 6 of them are personal stones: love, life, luck, commitment, timing, and place. I used to do them in person, but I don't anymore because I've got a rather long waiting list, and I do them over the phone. I'm kind of disabled, so it's hard for me to go anywhere anyway. So over the phone, I charge the stones up. I have the person say drop. I drop them into this circle of leather. I start
All
in the
right.
center, right's left, left's right. I start in the center, read to 12 o'clock, read around to 3, 6, 9, 12, read around for 12 weeks like a clock. I record the reading. I don't try to pinpoint Joe will call you on Thursday at 7 because it may be Jim and it may be Tuesday and it may not happen at all. I try to tell people what I see is what they're going through and why, rather than try to pinpoint every little event, because those may or may not happen. But the inertia, the trend, the reason we came here, that's what I tend to focus on. Um, and so soon after I learned from her, I started practicing on the road and giving the musicians and friends readings. And once I lived in Europe in the 90s, 93 to 2000. I actually went back in 2001. In fact, I was over there at 9/11 on a cruise ship. And when the second plane came through, a guy from Sweden said, "Man, I think y'all been hit by a terrorist attack." I ran down to the crew room, looked in the TV, saw that second plane went through, and went, "Wow, I saw that 35 years ago." So that was a confirmation of my psychic premonitions. But the Lithomancy book I wrote to show people how to use this art. And even while I was in Europe, sometimes people would ask me for readings. I wouldn't have my stones with me. So I got to where I would have them like on a table in my little apartment, arrange stuff, a card, an earring, a trinket, a spoon, arrange 10 or 15 things in some pattern. And I'm going to go get some tea, and I'll come back in a second. And I would come back in and I'd look at all these objects that people just laid in some order. And I could read that because I realized you can read anything from anything. Any port can go to infinite mind and infinite power. Figuring out how to use that port, tune in, um, get confirmation, verification. That's all a part of learning and growing and evolving. And everybody has their own psychic perspective, so to speak. But that's lithomancy, and I learned it because I was curious. I never saw it, and it's kind of become my main method of giving readings. In fact, you can go to lithomancy.com, lithomancy.com, and you can see some stuff about it. The As far as readings, I'm pretty booked up. I've got a huge waiting list right now, but you can get on it. So that's my second in eternity, my experience. Very grateful for, mind boggling. Took me a while to understand. And the other is my lithomancy book about how to read patterns of stones. And basically, it kind of hopefully induces people to realize you can read anything. I just happen to focus on lithomancy because that's a technique. But don't ever shortchange yourself on how much you can read symbolism into everything. I learned that. I ask that all the time, and I benefit from it. But that's all three by choice. So choose wisely, think big. Don't be surprised if you enter whole new dimensions of power and life and knowledge and so forth and accomplishment. And more than anything, our growth spiritually, psychically, and mentally, emotionally is on the inside. It's unlimited. There's no limit to how much we can grow there. Number one. Number two, we grow there so we can do better things in life. It's not to get a better seat in heaven. It's to make life better here now with our decisions and techniques and relationships here in the real world, in time and space. So I encourage everybody to stretch their belief system and start believing in miracles and start creating them and start practicing because that's what life's trying to tell us to do. Hey, y'all like all this crap? Then fix it. You know? Let me put it this way: there's millions of levels of diversity of just life on this planet. There's millions of levels or unlimited of what we can experience. Uh, I feel like, in one sense, I went from the very basement to the very top and back. I didn't stop at any of the other levels very long. But some people may stop at level 1 or level 20 and talk to grandma or kids or work out another concept of physics and decide to come back and reincarnate in 2387 and solve the wormhole problem. I mean, there's all sorts of, no two souls are the same, no two experiences are the same. But we do get to choose, we get to reflect, we get to see without our human bias, because we're in spirit land. Then you can't have a bunch of you and bias. It's just like it's like mud on your glasses, and up there your glasses are clear. you know, clearer. There's all different levels, but the amount of different experiences one can have when they die is very vast. I couldn't even predict them all. I had one. Well, I didn't actually die, but I felt like I had a near-death experience. So it's a vast range of experiences. But again, It's all one part of infinite mind. So no matter how different they are, any point in life, we can use as a launching pad for infinite consciousness, higher mind. And once we're out of the body, we're already in there. So the questions kind of answer themselves. Don't worry. Never fear death. It's so beautiful you can't imagine. Our challenge is here now. Yep, here now. Oh, I'm not afraid of death at all. No, now nobody wants to die a painful death. We certainly see it on TV, and I've experienced it in my family, my immediate family. Some intense tragedies that happens, you know. Um, but as far as when you cross over, no, it's beautiful. No good, loving, infinite God is going to take you at your most vulnerable point and go, aha, let's see what the scorecard is here. Do you go to heaven or hell or purgatory? No, that's all human way of sort of like drawing parallels, you know. There is no other place other than heaven. If you're in hell, it's because your own unwillingness to tune into heaven. Period. That's it.
Fantastic. And you gave me a lot to think of and to meditate on.
Well, I hope you stay inspired, and I hope all your listeners stay inspired. And from someone who's going through severe depression and anxiety and fear and doubt like I have, you have no idea how much of that fear and doubt, bipolar nature I went through. But good, because now I have firmly realized and can encourage other people to go, you know what? You can make success out of just about anything. You can turn into the light in your head, and even the deepest problems can become, if not resolvable, you can deal with them. And that's what life a lot of times is. If we can't resolve something, at least learn to deal with it and turn your happiness and gratitude on. Because there ain't a complaint department. You're just wasting your time. You know? Oh, it was challenging. It was scary. It was haunting. I was, I can understand why other people looked at me with a sense of concern, curiosity, doubt, and so forth. But you know what? I don't care. I didn't care then. I don't care now, because I'm the luckiest person on the planet, because what I did get to experience, and the fact that other people may not believe it or care or so could concern me less. It just goes to prove the diversity of human opinion. That's great. Okay.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Gary. I'm going to stop the recording now.
Thank you, my dear. You have a good day.